Muslim converts to Christianity face imprisonment and torture for their faith under Palestinian Authority rule. Join your Israel Vision host, Dr. Jay Rawlings, bring to light persecution against a forgotten minority caught between a rock and a hard place.
Palestinian Authority law bans missionizing, but PA leaders acknowledge that only missionizing aimed at Muslims is a crime. Mohammed Bakr, shown in this photograph, a Muslim who received Jesus as personal savior 6 years ago, has been languishing in a Palestinian prison since June. He is accused of involvement in land sales to Jews, a crime punishable by death according to Palestinian decree. Mohammed's Christian friends claim this is a trumped-up charge. They insist the only violation committed by the father of 9 children was to distribute Bibles and witness about Jesus in Muslim West Bank villages.
Mohammed, he's a very key person in that ever since he became a believer, in the beginning he started handing out Bibles and he had problems. He says, the people react so fiercely against him. Mohammed has brought 20 people to the Lord, and I have brought them all to Ramallah Church. We travel 45 minutes to Ramallah during the night. Mohammed has basically been the leader and the key person that bring all these people to the Lord. And after he's been known in his village in missionary activity, the people in the village got very upset, and the people just reported him. And now he's in the jail in Nablus.
My plea as a pastor to those who are holding him is for his release. This man is not guilty of any wrongdoing except the fact that he was a Muslim and he saw or he felt the hunger in his heart for something other than what he'd already been taught as a child. He accepted Christ as his Savior, became a strong believer, and has even helped to bring in others as believers. Our plea or our complaint is not against the local authorities. Our plea is only for the lives of his 9 children, his wife, as well as his own personal life. He's a good brother, and he's known in the church. He's attended my church personally for at least the past year and a half, and has proven himself as a believer and a brother to the others who attend the church.
Oh, we've been very concerned about Mohammed Bakr, who's been in prison in a Nablus jail in Nablus in the PA-controlled area, and he's been there about 6 months. And it was immediately after a Bible study, and then the very next day he was arrested and taken off to prison, supposedly for selling land to Jews many years before. But in fact, he's a very poor man, and there's no evidence of him having gained any money from any land deal at all. And so we're left with the conclusion that he's there because of his faith. They won't release him, and there's no due process. He's waiting. There's no trial has been promised, and I personally have gone to meet with him in prison, but was denied access to him.
This man who was under interrogation in Nablus, he's accused of being involved in falsing documents and selling land based upon false and forged documents. And it has nothing to do with the issue that he wants to be a Christian or he doesn't want to be a Christian.
Yasser Arafat advisor Ziad Abu Ziad says a preliminary investigation indicates Mohammed Bakr was involved in land dealing. He adds that Mohammed is being held without trial because in such cases the PA operates under Jordanian law, which sentences land dealers to death.
The official response is that he is in fact wanted for selling land, which is a great crime in the PA's thinking. In other words, to sell land to Jews. but there's no evidence. There's simply there's no record of it. All the evidence points to the opposite, and so and then when someone is left in prison or charged with that charge, he's simply forgotten about because no one takes any more interest in him. The word that they used is murtad, and like a traitor, and he's subject to persecution. He has been persecuted in prison. He's been tied up. He's been denied medicines, and Muhammad is ill. He has blood in his urine.
He has been hung up from the ceiling for a couple of days and repeatedly being punched and being struck in his kidneys and underneath his feet. He's also been deprived of water and of food.
The official Sharia position in Islam is that someone who leaves Islam is worthy of death. So they're left in this limbo. I've been told that they don't want to impose the death penalty, but that in fact that's their feeling, that's their gut feeling that they're worthy of death, and so that they'll just let someone like that rot in prison.
Human rights organizations confirm that Palestinian security forces engage in torture of detainees. Missionary David Ortiz and his Jewish wife Leah have worked for 8 years among Muslims in the West Bank. In the days of the Palestinian Intifada, David was beaten up for distributing Bibles to Muslims. He describes the situation today as complicated. Although the Palestinian National Authority has publicly committed itself to abide by human rights norms, in actual practice the PA has not taken any steps to prevent torture. Palestinian security forces sometimes hold family members hostage as a means of pressure on suspects and their families, and hold others in solitary confinement for long periods, denying family visits for months, as happened with Muhammad Bakr and his family.
Missionary activity to Muslims is illegal. It's not illegal to Christians, but it's illegal to the Muslim community. Besides Muhammad, there are others that have trouble with the PA, but they haven't been taken in. But Muhammad, being a key person, a leader among the people, he has been taken in.
Do you think they're using him as an example?
For sure, because ever since they took him in, the other believers are afraid. But at the same time afraid, but at the same time the Lord is using this to help them to count the costs. We have here a Palestinian believer. He became a believer, and after a month he was taken into the PA. He has cigarette burns from his toes all the way to his chest. They kept on extinguishing cigarettes on his body. Over here, they kept on hitting him, banging him with a rubber sticks underneath his feet here. The doctor explained to me that it would be better if they would break his legs, because when they keep on banging him underneath his feet here, it forms like a fracture in the bone that fracture keeps on going straight up. Over here, they heated up a piece of metal and they kept on applying it here to the back of his feet. Over here, they kept on banging him underneath his arms. Same thing here. Here, they kept on hitting him on his buttocks and on his back here. And what took place afterwards, he says he couldn't feel his arms because they kept on hitting him on his back. He couldn't feel his arms. Just to say concerning this man's story, he was not given water for 3 days. At the end, they told him if he wants water, he has to go to the bathroom, which he did, and he drank from the toilet. And he also drank his own urine.
This man, whom we'll call Ali to protect his real identity, is a Muslim who became a believer in Jesus 6 years ago. Ali was imprisoned by the Palestinian police.
إذا كان إذا كان إنسان اعتنق الديانة
In my village, there are approximately 20 believers, but there are others who would believe, if not for the terror they face when they see people like me facing severe difficulties, even being murdered. In Muslim eyes, we are traitors to Islam, worthy of death. Anyone can have us thrown in jail. The fundamentalist Muslims chase us, and if we move to a different town, even there they try to kill us. On the other hand, the Palestinian Authority takes a more indirect approach to believers like me. They start with accusations. They don't say outright that we have become Christians, but bring other accusations against us. But it is clear that the main reason is that we have left Islam to become Christians. In my personal case, I was fortunate that a relative paid a large sum of money to have me released, and also a bribe was paid to an official. For this reason, I was released from prison, but there are many less fortunate.
And what happens when a Muslim becomes a believer in Jesus? Is that difficult for them?
Yes, it is very difficult. The first challenge is the family. You see, Islam is a set of rules, not only religious, but it is political, social, economical. He would be considered as a traitor to the faith, traitor to the family, traitor to the religion, and traitor to the country. As a result of that, many lives are endangered, and many people, in fact, they have suffered persecution very heavily. One of the big problems here, Jay, is they mix religion and politics at the same time. And often those who accept Christ, they are called collaborators with Israel. And collaborator, that means sentence is death. I think we need to look more, in more open way to ask the people, to give them the freedom and the choice to choose whom they believe. Some of them, they were working with the state of Israel, but others, they were not. So one of the big mistakes that we are committing here is we are pointing fingers at everyone who become a Christian or a follower of Christ. He is a collaborator.
Now, if I want to speak in general about the Islamic rule, the religious rule about Muslims, Muslims are not allowed, according to the Islamic religion, to convert the religion to another religion or to become non-believers. A Muslim who will convert his religion and publicize that, and he says that he's quitted the Islamic religion, he will be treated according to the Islamic law, and the Islamic law is that he should be warned and asked to make up his mind and come back to Islam. But if he insists, then the rule for that is killing. But it must be clear that this law is not applied in any of the other Arab countries simply because the regimes there, they are not Islamic regimes. They are modern secular regimes.
No laws exist under the Palestinian Authority explicitly forbidding conversion from Islam to Christianity. However, security officials bypass this limitation. Rather than accusing a convert of religious treason against Islam, he is charged with selling land to Jews, synonymous with national treason. The result is the same, as both charges are punishable by death, and so Islamic justice is served.
The PA, according to the agreement, according to the Oslo Agreement, is supposed to pursue human rights and grant them in the areas under its control. The Palestinian Authority is obligated to do that. Unfortunately, this provision is being violated, like most provisions in the Oslo Agreement, by the Palestinian Authority, and especially people who might want to change their religion from Islam to Christianity really have no chance of surviving there.
These people are not brought in with the charges of being Christians because they know that the West is supplying money. The Europeans and the Americans are supplying money to the PA. So it's not in their interest to persecute Christians in the name of Christianity. This is why forced charges have to be brought up.
Again, I want to emphasize, we're not fighting against the authority. It's a spiritual battle, and all we want is the freedom of these brothers to worship as they please without any ridicule or any obstruction from anyone within the state itself.
Isa Bajalia, a Pentecostal pastor in the West Bank city of Ramallah, describes the fate of Muslim converts to Christianity as no longer being alive in the eyes of the community. This means total ostracism. Isa has been warned by Palestinian security agents to desist from evangelistic activities. He is threatened because he encourages and disciples Muslim converts in his church. On the other hand, pastors who limit their evangelizing activity to the 40,000 nominal Christians living under PA control do not face similar threats and persecution.
We presently have several Muslims that attend church every week. What happens is they become excommunicated from their families, from the society in which they live. They're no longer, in most cases, they're not even considered alive any longer.
If a Muslim chose to become a Christian, that's by his choice. We do not force him to become a Christian, and when he comes to the point that he is convinced this is the right way to live or the right way to believe in this kind of religion, I think that's his choice. I'm sure he will face difficulties.
In general, Christians living in a Muslim society face discrimination and subtle pressures. This is the case under the Palestinian Authority, where efforts are made by the PA to cover up reports of violent attacks on Christians and vandalism against Christian property. Anyone who dares publicize such stories is threatened. Palestinian officials describe reports in the Israeli press of persecution as baseless, exaggerated, or at most, as very minor incidents.
Bethlehem is considered as a model for the coexistence between all other religions in the city. Myself, as the mayor of the city, I am proud to say that this is one of the more secure cities in the world.
So there's no instances that you know of any violations of rights of believers, of Christians, etc.?
Violation of rights, they are not noticed at all. There are few individual incidents here and there, as it happened in every community all over the world. But there is nothing remarkable at all, nothing deserves to be mentioned really about these violations altogether.
You feel the sense that you feel in all dictatorial countries, and that is that citizens are afraid to talk to, especially to a camera, where it is obviously going to become known that they have said what they have said. It reminds me a little bit of the situation in the Soviet Union before the upheaval there and before the collapse of the communist regime. People would tell you that they're perfectly happy, that everything is all right, and especially if they, in any sense, were representatives of the regime. But the fact is that we all knew that they couldn't talk freely, and once they got out of there, that is when they poured their hearts out, and you found out about all the troubles that they and others had to undergo under the regime.
Overall, the Christian percentage of the population of the Holy Land is dwindling down to a mere 2%. 130,000 Christians, most of them Arabs, live in Israel proper, including 10,000 in Jerusalem, and another 40,000 Christians live under Palestinian Authority rule.
Well, it's not only in Bethlehem. As you know, Bethlehem itself has undergone a tremendous transformation. It used to be a town in which 80% of the population was Christian. Today, 80% of the population is Muslim, and the Christian population is only 20%. That was partly or largely due to the fact that the Christians voted with their feet and got away from Bethlehem. There were too many pressures from the Muslim population for them to withstand, and they preferred to leave. This exodus is taking place in even greater proportions right now. This is unfortunate because Christians in general in the Muslim world are not enjoying the kind of rights and the kind of living conditions and the kind of freedoms to which they would like to get accustomed.
Well, the main problem in Bethlehem and other parts of the West Bank, a lot or many Christians are immigrating to the West because of the same reason I mentioned. They feel they are minority, facing all kind of pressures from the political perspective and religious perspective. Finally, they are fed up. They say, well, we are going to find a better situation in the West. And sadly, as Christians in this land, we are less than 2%, which a few years ago we were much, much higher in number. And I've been speaking with some people in the area of Bethlehem, Bet Sahur, to find out in few months over than 100 families left the town to go and live somewhere else.
Many Christians, unfortunately, they are leaving the country. So much stress, so much pressure. Some of them, they look for a better opportunities abroad, and that's why they immigrant and they leave this country.
Bethlehem Mayor Hanan Nasser blames Israel for the crisis affecting local Christians.
Bethlehem was with a vast majority of Christians up to 1948. After the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, where the Palestinians were obliged to leave southern Palestine and sought refuge in Bethlehem, the consequences of which now we have 3 refugee camps in Bethlehem. 2 of them, they are within the city boundaries, and 1 outside the city boundary of the Bethlehem. The total of these refugees now is about 30,000 people. And we should not forget, the split of East Jerusalem from Bethlehem has affected economically very badly the citizens of Bethlehem, because they were relying much on East Jerusalem, and East Jerusalem and Bethlehem, they were more or less one city and one economy.
Privately, many Bethlehem Christians expressed dissatisfaction over the way Christmas is now celebrated in their city under Yasser Arafat. They say today Christmas is more like a nationalist party, as Muslims from all the surrounding villages come to the square on Christmas Eve.
You know, still Jesus is mentioned in many chapters in the Quran. They respect Jesus, and Jesus for them, he's a great man, and they respect him. And for that, I said before a while that Christmas is a national day. It's not only a Christian celebration. It is really a national day for all Muslims and Christians in the city of Bethlehem.
Well, Muslims and Christians are both Palestinians. And this is how we deal with each other and how we view each other. We do not differentiate between a Muslim and a Christian. It's for the first time in history that the president attends the ceremonies of the Christians on Christmas or Easter. And it was President Arafat last year who attended the services all the time with his wife. And the purpose was to show that we are one people and we are one believers.
During these negotiations, some Israelis have put down the Bible in the sense of saying, well, we're going to have peace. Let's forget about my Bible, about Abraham, and God speaking to Abraham concerning the land of Israel. But Arafat would never do that. Arafat would never put down the Quran in negotiations at any price. But it's not a democratic, neither is it a political power. It's a religious power.
According to Ziad Abu Ziyad, evangelistic work aimed at Muslims is considered a threat to Palestinian state security because it threatens the solidarity of the Islamic people. They fear converts might read the Bible literally, as viewed by some evangelicals who say God gave the Holy Land to the Jews. Paradoxically, although Sharia law proscribes death to converts from Islam, it does not prohibit Christians from practicing their religion as people of the book. In 1995, the Palestinian Authority issued Bethlehem pastor Naim Khouri a permit to operate the Voice of Love Christian radio station.
We have today our Voice of Love radio station, 104.1 FM, 7 days a week, almost 8-9 hours a day. And we've received so many letters from listeners all over this country, and from Jordan. We receive letters from Jordan. It tells how God really touched their lives through the Word of God, because this is the first thing ever happened in the history of the Holy Land, to have a first Christian radio station in this country.
That He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believes...
In the Middle East, religion and politics are inseparably linked. Yasser Arafat has long cultivated Christian support and presents himself as the protector of Christian interests. In speeches, he invokes the image of the Palestinian flag fluttering atop Jerusalem's church spires and minarets, in his claim that Jerusalem is Palestine's eternal capital. In reality, Christians are being slowly squeezed out as the situation for Christians under Palestinian rule worsens.
And the persecution of the Christians is only a symptom of a general malaise. And the malaise is that there are no democratic traditions yet in these countries. And once a democracy is introduced and triumphs, and I believe that once it is introduced it will triumph, just as it has in Eastern Europe, I think things will change drastically, and Christians and others will live with much greater freedom and less fear than they are living under today.
Well, we feel that there's a squeezing out of liberties in human rights in areas of free choice, and we feel that any human being needs the right to hold an idea, to be able to change his idea, to be convinced by new ideas, and we feel that the Gospels is the only peace-giving message for real peace here in the country, and so we're concerned that the gospel be available, and that people from all backgrounds, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, will be able to hear that gospel, so they can have true peace in this region.
At that moment, my enemies became my brothers in reality, and to this day, the Muslims that become believers were really brothers and sisters, and we have such a joy when we're together as a Jew and as Arabs that were formerly enemies. The love between us is so real. It's such a reality of the Bible, and it's really God's peace process, because only Jesus, He's the only answer. He's the only one that can break down the walls and really cause peace between two people that have an enmity, this deep, ancient enmity towards one another. And we're experiencing it in Him.